I say that every single week because I wouldn't do this if I wasn't excited about it. But today we're going to talk about my book, Getting High Off Your Hurt. I released this book back in October of 2023 and then did an official launch earlier this year in 2024. But I wanted to kind of highlight the book today and some of the things that I talk about in the book, but also explain to you why I even wrote the book. Some people are like, what does that even mean, getting high off your hurt? Why would you even talk about that? Is that even a thing? Yes, it is. So, the reason I wrote this book, Getting High Off Your Book, I'm going to display it here and I'm sure our producers will have it up. But this is the book here, Getting High Off Your Hurt. It is available on my website, ChristineMPsalms.com, as well as Amazon. So, you can check it out there, type in my name or the title of the book, and it will pop right up for you. But why did I write this book? I wrote this book to, first of all, help me heal, go through that healing process, the process that God took me through, but also help others because I realize I am not the only one. I don't live in this silo where only things happen to me and no one else. Oftentimes, we as moms or as women or as people in general, we think that we do. And let me say this, that even though I am a mompreneur coach, what I do, what I share, and even the books that I write are not just for women. They're not just for mom. They are universal. They are for people who have hurts in their life. And so I wrote this book because I realized myself that I was getting high off of my own hurt. What does that mean? That means that I was looking unconsciously or not really thinking about it, but I was looking for the next hurt in my life. You've all heard the saying, you're waiting for the other shoe to drop. That was my life. And that's what other people think. They think that something's always going to happen. And our bodies, our minds, our flesh, those that walk in the spirit, our spirit man, our flesh is always seeking after the next hurt, after the next high. And I talk about that in our book. And I wrote this because it was a time in my life where that is all that I did. Every time something happened, I was always waiting for the next bad thing to happen, the next negative thing to happen. And I began to feed off of it. I began to have the woe is me syndrome. And I wore my hurt as a badge of honor. I wanted people to feel sorry for me. I wanted people to come and console me and to come and say, oh, Christine, it's going to be okay. And I know I am not the only one. I am not. We've sold many books. We're almost reached 100 books that we have sold. I'm excited about that. I hope that you can help me reach that number. But more importantly, I pray that you get the book so that you can begin the process of healing. And I've talked to some people and they've talked about what they have gotten out of the book. The book definitely steps on toes. It definitely reminds them of the things that they have not dealt with in the past. Some of the things that they haven't dealt with is forgiveness of themselves. And in my previous podcast, I talked about what forgiveness of yourself looks like, but also forgiving other people, also letting other people go, letting yourself off the hook. So I wanted to kind of go through a couple of the chapters, highlight the titles, and let you know exactly what in the world is this book talking about and why should I even think about it. But I did this because I wanted people to heal. So the more and more and more that we linger in our hurt and in our past, the further away we will get from our purpose. So for me, the more and more that I thought about my hurt, that I kept reliving the experiences over and over again, not to heal or to learn the lesson, but to just relive it and to feel my flesh or my blood boil, as they say, the more and more I did that, the further away I got away from my purpose. And I wanted to make sure that I dive into that, or actually hone into that for you today. What is your purpose in life? Are you fulfilling your purpose? And if you're not, why not? Is it because of past hurts? Is it because you haven't forgiven yourselves? Now, let me give you an example of what that means of getting high off your hurt. You all have been in an argument or discussion with somebody and you said something to them and they've said something back to you and you're thinking in your head, oh, what can I say next to get back at them? Well, the conversation would be over. You'll walk away and then you'll think, if I had only said this to them, if I had only said that to them, I could really stick it to them. I could really get them to understand why I'm feeling the way that I'm feeling. That's getting high off your hurt. Discussion has ended. whether you have forgiven that person or not, or you're not going to ever speak to them, but you're sitting here thinking, what can I say next? That's you reliving the hurt over and over and over again. Something that I shared at my book signing, and I'll share it here as well, is years ago, when I walked down the aisle, and I got married 27 years ago, my father did not walk me down the aisle. No, he wasn't dead. He's not dead. But he had gotten into an argument with my mother about 2 months prior to our wedding. And he decided that because of the hurt that he experienced with my mom, and they were divorced at the time, I'm still divorced. Well, she's gone to be with the Lord, and he's moved on as well, and has remarried since then, and has had wives that have died, unfortunately. But my point is, they had gotten into an argument prior to the death of prior to my wedding. And because of that, he decided not to walk me down the aisle. That hurt me to my core, to the point where he was so angry at her that he could not do this for his only daughter. I kept that hurt for many, many, many years. I held on to it. I thought I had let it go, but I hadn't let it go until Katrina happened. We all know when Katrina happened in New Orleans, and we know that when the levees broke and the water came into these towns and literally destroyed towns, and families were separated. It was then that God spoke to me and said, you need to heal from your hurt. You need to move past that. Forgive your father. It wasn't your fault. Yeah, I thought it was my fault that he didn't walk me down the aisle, even though I knew that it was an argument that he and my mother had. But I had to decide. God said, it's time to heal from the hurt. At that point, I had kids in my life. And like I said, I was married at that point. And I began the process of healing. I had written him a letter. I got on the phone one day, got enough bravery, and wrote him a letter. I read it to him. But then what I did was I released the expectations that I had on my father. Yeah, I released those expectations. And that's one of the points I want to make today, is releasing the expectations that you have on the other person so that you can begin the process of healing. And that's what I talk about in this book, is being able to release those expectations. If I hadn't released the expectations of my father, those expectations of, I wanted him to respond in a certain way. I wanted him to say he was sorry in a certain way. I wanted him to basically beg me for forgiveness in a certain way. Those are the expectations that I had on him. I would not be able to heal from that hurt if I had not released those expectations. Now, did my father ever ask for forgiveness? He did, sometime later, years later, in fact. But I released them before those expectations were met. Some of them were never met. I am a daddy's girl. Will I ever be this super, super close relationship with my father? Probably not. And I'm being very transparent today, but I love my father dearly. I caregive for him now. He lives in my home, has been here for almost 4 years, and I love him dearly. I take care of him. I make sure that he is living the best life he can. Now, I would not be able to do that if I was still getting high off my hurt, if I had not forgiven him, if I had not forgiven myself, if I had not forgiven my mother, if I had not released those expectations that I expected him to live up to. Because oftentimes we have expectations of people that have hurt us or have done something to us in our life, but we don't realize they don't have the capacity to fulfill those expectations. So when we are able to release them, then we're able to begin the process. And I use the word begin on purpose, begin the process of healing from our hurt. So I encourage you to get the book. One of the other things that I want to talk about before I close out today is when we don't heal from our hurt, we create collateral damage. So if you don't release the expectations of others, or expectations of even of yourself, of forgiving yourself, you will in turn create collateral damage. So ask yourself, have you ever created collateral damage in your life? I'm talking about things that just did not go the way that they were supposed to go, and you begin to lash out on people. You begin to spew your hatred or your hurt on other people because you're still getting high off your hurt. You begin to create collateral damage within your family. That means your children are being hurt by something that had nothing to do with them. That means your coworkers may be hurt by something that had nothing to do with them. You're spewing things onto your spouse that had nothing to do with them because you're busy getting high off your hurt. You're busy counting the times that so and so did something to you. You're going back in the past, reliving those things. Yes, they happened. Yes, they hurt. Yes, we're trying to heal from them, but we prevent the healing when we don't let them go. So what I talk about in the book, I talk about what that looks like on how we can let that go, how we can say, you know what, I'm not going to create collateral damage anymore. I'm not going to infect people anymore. I'm not going to infest people with my hurt anymore. I'm going to begin the process of what it looks like to completely heal from my hurt. And when I say begin, I mean it has to start. And yes, it is a process. And even in that process, you're going to experience something that I call the ugly middle. Actually, I have a short called process, ugly middle, process. Because even in the process of healing from that hurt, you are going to experience the ugly middle. That ugly middle can look like it can look like you're angry at yourself, you're mad at yourself, you aren't making progress as quickly as you want to, but understand that you are in the middle of the process. The middle of the process isn't always going to be pretty. It isn't always going to feel good. So how do we move past the middle? How do we deal while we're actually in the middle? I am so glad you asked. We get ourselves a support system. And that's one of the chapters that we talk about in my book. We talk about what it looks like to have a real support system to help you heal from your hurt. Now, I know people may think, you know what, Christine, it's not that serious. I've experienced hurt in my life and things have happened to me. I've made mistakes, and sometimes we don't heal from the mistakes that we've made. That was me some years ago. You're like, I don't need that. I'll just keep it moving. Don't think about it. But when that happens, you create triggers in your life. This is the book here, Getting High Off Your Hurt. It is available on my website, ChristineMPsalms.com, as well as Amazon. So you can check it out there, type in my name or the title of the book, and it will pop right up for you. Now, remember, I am Christine M. Psalms, the mompreneur coach, motivating you to strive for excellence and absolutely succeed. Until next time, be blessed. Do you want to be a multi-level mom? That mom who is able to harmonize and balance their life without the burnout, without the mom guilt, without trying to figure out what they should actually give up.